All right, everybody, that's enough. Damn that music. One of these days we're going to figure it out. And we don't have to deal with Facebook right now, so maybe I ought to try something different next week, see if we can actually get some decent music to welcome us in on a Friday evening. But anyways, unhappy Friday, everyone. Coming to you live once again from my humble abode here. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever service you're using to tune in. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume, use the company dime if, God forbid, you are still stuck at work on a Friday night. Crack open a cold one if you have the opportunity. I'm going to not partake tonight, but let's have some fun as we put an end to this week's hostage situation and look forward to another almighty weekend. It is snowing like crazy out here. Started right around 4 o'clock in this area and wasn't sticking to the roads or anything at the time. Like, whatever. I thought I heard something about 1 to 3 inches or something. Well, it's sticking to the roads now, and there is a bunch of snow out there. So I'm glad I don't have to go anywhere tonight. I thought I heard it was going to be snowing in Philadelphia too, or at least in the area. So I hope everyone out there is safe. Andrew Bagley joins the room. What's up, roomies? And we all got pitchers and catchers. Let's go, Phils. Yes, pitchers and catchers reported this week. So for a bunch of the folks that are our usual suspects on here, the 3 letters a few of them despise the most are MLB. Well, it is back, and we are going to do that not this week, but we'll get into it starting next week. What's going on, Andrew? How you doing, my brother? Hope you're staying dry and warm out there. Lou Dominguez in the room. I vote for Back in Black for the intro or the Benny Hill theme. The Benny Hill theme. That'd be some funny shit. But yeah, without Facebook, Facebook was always kind of the deterrent for that. Because no matter what licensing agreement you may have, they shut down your streams on Facebook if you start playing licensed music. Like, I have a few friends of mine in Nashville who are local musicians, and they're really, really good. And they've all told me that I can use their music for this. Problem is, a couple of them are on Spotify. They're on iTunes. So the minute I fire it up, Facebook will kick you off. But right now we don't have to deal with Facebook because the hackers still have control of the Green Legion Facebook page, unfortunately. Got a feeling that's going to come to an end soon, whether that gets resolved and or they just decide to launch a new page. So who else we got here? Russ Taylor says, what's up, bitches? How we doing, Russ? Hope you're enjoying your Friday. Lou Mancini in the room. What's up, peeps? Keenan Harmon. Facebook and the Cowboys suck. Yes, as always. Russ Taylor says, snow's supposed to start overnight in Philly. That actually makes sense because your weather's usually half a day to a day after what I get here. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Looks like we're going to get instead of the 1 to 3. And in this area, that's a massive freaking problem. So we'll see how tomorrow morning goes. I do have some things I want to accomplish this weekend, and now I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it because if the roads aren't clear and people are driving like idiots, I am not going out in it. I'm just at that point where if the place I'm living, they don't take care of cleaning up the snow well enough, I am just not going to deal with it. I'm just going to stay home and, maybe I'll run up to the corner store and grab a 12-pack. That'll be my Saturday. But we'll see. Andrew Bagley gives us a nice segue here. He says, best wishes to the victims of the Kansas City shootings. Now, folks, I usually, we do the intro, we talk for a few, and then I try to get into the business end of things. But sometimes there are things that come before that. And so on that note, before we do anything else tonight, and actually, look, my printer's working. Yay, I've actually got a run sheet that I don't have to have halfway on my screen here. But before we do anything tonight, obviously, as Andrew segued us into, our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Kansas City after the shooting during the Super Bowl parade at Union Station. They do have 2 juveniles in custody and have been charged with the shooting, with one who was reported dead at the scene, and another 22 people injured from this. On a day that was obviously filled with laughter, with joy, everybody having a good time, and it ends in an absolute nightmare for the estimated million in attendance. And folks, that's not just grown male adults like most of us here. That's that's families. That's men, women, children, everything that were affected by this. And God bless the first responders that had to rush into that awful atmosphere to apprehend these two idiots, and also the folks, the first responders who had to rush in to deal with the wounded and the people who were so scared they couldn't move. I mean, there's all kinds of reports coming out of Kansas City. There's even one report that Andy Reid shielded a child from this. So I know we've liked, if that report is true, and I forgive me, I didn't look enough into it. We've taken a lot of cracks at Andy Reid over the years, in particular when we were in Kansas City earlier this year, and Quimby and I came up with that run sheet where we were just ripping him for being a bad dad and everything. If that report is true, hats off to Andy Reid as well, of course. But from fans to players to coaches to first responders, everyone affected by it. Obviously our hearts go out to all of you. And before I get to this last part of this here, before we move on, I do want to caution all of you that what I'm saying now and what I'm about to go, the short little story that I heard about something that happened there, don't get this twisted with politics, please. If that's your thing, that's fine. I'm not telling you how to feel a certain way. What I'm telling you is there's not going to be any room for it on this show, not in this atmosphere, not with this sort of thing. All right, so you check that shit at the door. You want to talk politics afterwards? Hit me up. I'm more than happy to do so. This isn't the platform. Not for this sort of god awful tragic event. So just don't do it. Okay. I don't want to become nasty with anyone, and I'm going to try to hold it together here. I had a hard time putting this on my run sheet, and so this part is tough. There's a sports reporter, and I'm going to leave him nameless because there are varying opinions of this guy, including from myself. He was apparently at this parade with a friend, with his family. And then obviously the chaos ensues, right? When the shooting happens. They get far enough away where, they feel at least a little bit safer, albeit panicked and, confused and sad, upset. He ended up next to another family with young children. And I forget if he said if it was the mother or the grandmother told him that when everything went down, when the shooting started, the adults didn't know what to do. It was a grade school daughter or granddaughter of theirs that led them away from it, led them to safety. Now, you can look at it as bravery on the kid's part. Obviously, it's excellent job by that young lady. But why was this kid able to do that? And it's because the child had already been trained on how to handle these situations. And that's coming from the schools, the drills that they have for active shooters. Some of you have children roughly the same ages as mine. Some of you have children younger than mine. Some of you have children who are grown and are adults and they're off, doing their own thing. In any one of those cases, could you possibly imagine being in that situation and your grade school age child has to lead the way because their schools had to prepare them for it? Don't get me wrong. I'm thankful that there's a kid out there that was able to do that for their family, but it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach that things have gotten so bad with mass shootings and school shootings in this country that these kids are drilled on how to handle the situation. And so they're at a Super Bowl parade for their favorite team. They're watching their heroes with their parents and their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles. And this kid has been trained to what to do in that situation and trained in their school. I don't know about the rest of you, but it makes me, it hurts my heart. You know, the hate in this country, and these were juveniles, so they're just whatever the hell was going on in their own lives, who knows? But it's not always juveniles, right? It's young adults. It's just the hate in this country, for whatever reason, mostly politically driven, has gotten so bad that our children are being exposed to drills on how to handle if some lunatic comes into their school with a gun and tries to open fire, or the whole active shooter situation. And look, you want to talk about in the workplace? We're adults, okay? I expect us to know how to handle those situations. Maybe get drilled on it, whatever you talk about, people going postal or whatever the case is. But in schools, and drilled on it so well and so knowledgeable of it that this young lady was able to lead her family away from an active shooter situation at a parade that held 1 million people. Commend the young lady, but shame on us. And this is why I told you, don't make this politically driven. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. This is a failure on all of us, that shit like this continues to happen, and that our kids, who should feel the only place they should feel more safe is at home, right? Home and school, they should feel absolutely 100% safe. And yet they can't anymore because of idiots, because of sick individuals, because of all the hate in this country. I just want to tell everyone out there, all of you, you guys that are my friends, you guys that are loyal to this show, loyal to the Green Legion, or otherwise, if you just happen to be passing through the interwebs and see this message, turn off the TV. Stop listening to the talking heads. I don't give a good goddamn what station you watch. CNN, NBC, MSNBC, Fox, PBS. I don't give a shit. Shut it off. All they are doing is pumping hate into our society and then profiting on the coverage from the fallout of the hate that they've pushed, the agenda that they've pushed, the hateful agenda that they've pushed. Shut the damn TV off. Go talk to your neighbors, right? You want to solve some things? Go talk to your neighbors. Talk to your friends. Talk to your church. Talk to people at the grocery store. Talk to your kids' teachers. But stop putting our children in situations where they have to lead adults out of active shooter situations. Everyone out there who contributes to that form of hate, and I don't mean you have to have a gun and walk into a school or do something like what happened at the parade. Anyone who contributes to that form of hate should be absolutely ashamed of yourselves. You want to talk about illegal immigrants and all this shit and all the problems in the country? I got it. I'm with you. But you sons of bitches are just as bad, if not worse. I would deport you before I would deport a lot of other people. All right. I had to get that off my chest. It's not okay, guys. It's just not. Kids should never have to feel that way. That's our job as adults to protect them. Kids having to be trained on how to, grade school kids, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. It goes further, the middle school and the high school too. But I'm talking about little kids, 8, 9 years old, having to be trained how to handle active shooter situations is the most repulsive thing. I got to stop or I'm going to get too carried away. When I rant, I like it to be something sports related. And while this did happen at a sports related event, this is not sports related. This is our country. And this shit has to stop. Okay. Mass shootings have gone through the stratosphere in the last 10 years. And it's got to stop. I don't care what the hell has to happen. You know what? You want to protect schools? Hire a retired veteran. Stick him at the door. Let's see one of these punk asses try to get past him. And I guarantee you, a lot of them will line up for the opportunity to protect the youth of this country. Promise you. Just saying. All right. It had to be said, guys. So thank you for the segue, Andy. But that had to be said. All right. What else is going on over here? Kids to Kansas City fans that tackled those idiots. Yes, agreed. 100%. Andrew Begley, over a dispute. What's this world coming to? Let's do better. We all got to live on this planet. We do. We all got to live in this country. Right? Lou Mancini says he dealt with fire drills. So did I. That's all I deal with. Fire drills. It wasn't any shit. Russ Taylor, how they process information and compartmentalize what is going on and do with the information. It is juvenile. It is hate. It is mental health. Maybe a top-tier country in some aspects, but we are pathetic in that category. We're pathetic in a lot of categories, dude. Education is a real problem. We won't get into that here. Keenan Harmon, I've been training housekeeping staff at hospitals since 1990. For the past 7 years, we've had to incorporate active shooter training into how effectively clean. I feel your pain, Gilmore. Yeah, and everyone should. It's not just my pain, guys. It's all of our pain. Right? Like I said, all of you out there who have kids now or had kids and that are grown, put yourself in that situation and just think about it. I heard that story on my way home from work today, and I cried, like thinking about my daughter in that spot. It's awful. Lou Mancini, amen, brother. Andy Bagley here, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we all feel the same way. I just felt like it had to be said. And I've got a microphone and a small podcast to say it on, so I'm going to. But I'm sure you can see why I did not want any kind of political nonsense brought into it, okay? And enough with the media hate machine. The mainstream media is the number one reason for the problems in this country, by far. I could go on for days on that. I'm just not going to. Because we're going to move on to some shit that's more fun. All right? So, yes, all our thoughts and prayers, our hearts out to all the folks in Kansas City who were affected by this. The terrible acts by these juveniles. Great job. The police would probably tell these Chiefs fans, yo, dude, like, appreciate it, but, man, stand down, let us handle it. But good job by them for taking them down. And, we'll just move on. So now we will get to the business end of things here. If you're tuning in on Twitter, because we don't have Facebook right now, please do not forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Green Legion. If that's where you're more comfortable, we totally get it. But just understand that the YouTube channel is the best way to view and listen and comment on any Green Legion radio show that is streaming. So please do us a solid. Even if you're on Twitter, head on over to YouTube, search the Green Legion, subscribe, hit your little bell for notifications. And again, no matter where you're subscribed to us, except for the Facebook page right now, make sure you share that everywhere. We want to flood the interwebs with Green Legion and Green Legion Radio. The Right On Cue show. I'm guessing we're just going to hear from Quimby with Right On Cue whenever he's got something grinding his gears so bad he wants to get on and talk about it. I would imagine as we get closer to the draft, we'll probably get more of that. But he's probably, he's enjoying a much needed break right now. Oh, well, kind of, because, we had the announcement about Brazil. So now, so much for a break. You got to turn around and get that set up. So we'll hear from Right On Cue. I know everybody is anxiously awaiting that next episode, as am I. I enjoy that show very much, especially when he asks me to come on, because I'm just there as a guest, and it makes it fun. Always a good time with Quimby. You guys all know that. So we'll look forward to that. As for this show, the story remains the same. My buddy down in Tampa just landed some new business. Hopefully we're going to get a sponsorship deal done here sometime over the next month or so, as soon as the dust settles there. But we're going to need more. So if anyone knows a small, small local business, Philadelphia, Connecticut, here in Ohio, for my Ohio folks down in the Tampa area, and you're looking for some additional advertisement, go ahead, reach out to me. Very small monetary, guys. We're not talking about a whole lot of money here. Basically just covering costs to do this show. And it ain't much, trust me. But yeah, we'll talk. Any business that wants to jump in, so get a hold of me. You guys know how, and we'll go from there. Green Legion travel packages, tailgates, and otherwise. Like I said last week, it is never too early to start talking about this. And what's active right now at trips.greenlegion.com, we've got the Green Legion and Phil's Fever invading London from June 3rd to June 10th. This is the only sports experience company that successfully traveled 1,846 people to London for the Eagles game against the Jaguars back in 2018. And as was pointed out last week, I think by Keenan, also brought all 1,846 back. So successful trip for everyone. If you're looking for a way to go to London, you want to catch a Phil's game while you're there is no better way to do it. Trips.greenlegion.com. Also on the docket, invading Baltimore and the Inner Harbor, June 14th to June 16th. Again, trips.greenlegion.com. Hop on there, check out the details. I'm sure it'll be a blast. It's just a short trip down from Philadelphia. You also have Green Legion invades Chicago for the Phillies and the Cubs, July 3rd through July 6th. So this will be 4th of July weekend in Chicago. Wrigleyville will be jumping. The Phils are there. You're going to have a blast. Don't even question it. If you've never been to Chicago, if you're a baseball fan and you need to get Wrigley Field checked off your list, jump on this trip. This is the way to do it. I'm sure as I am sitting here, I will tell you that trip will be nothing short of spectacular. And you get to do it over Independence Day weekend. So great fireworks shows around the city. And then, like I said, I'm sure Wrigleyville will be jumping like crazy. And, of course, the big one that we found out about last week, Green Legion invades Brazil. They are taking early bird deposits. Again, trips.greenlegion.com. I believe it's $500 for the deposit. I would think that works the same way as other early bird deposits, where if all of a sudden it comes down to it where you can't go, you could flip that to another trip. But do not, make sure you ask those questions before you book. If you have questions and did not tune in to Quimby when he went over all the details he had at that moment, the preliminary rundown early last week, I highly advise you to get on our YouTube channel after this show, of course, and listen to what that man has to say. Okay? We're going to back him up on a few things here, and we're going to keep this going week over week. Any other group that immediately released a full package was just trying to jump the competition, namely the Green Legion, right? They all know the Green Legion is the best in the business. They're trying to jump us. Do not make, and I repeat, do not make the impulsive decision. Wait until you see every option and that's available to you, and then go ahead and make that choice if Brazil is something you want to do. Once everything is released, choose, but above all, do not travel alone or just with like your significant other, unless you're someone like Quimby who has all the knowledge of that area. Then by all means do whatever the hell you want. But for someone like me, or I'm sure a lot of you, have you spent time in Brazil? Enough time to know exactly where not to go, exactly where to go, all of that sorts of things. I know I don't. I know if I had the means and I was going to go on this trip, there is no better tour guide than Quimby. Okay? Not that I know of anyways. All right. And you all know the Green Legion is always the best in the business. Come on. He's very well versed in the area, knows what to do, knows what to expect, knows where to be, and more importantly, knows where not to be and how not to get taken advantage. Look, most of you folks are Philly folks. You're not going to get taken advantage of, but it is a different country and you don't know all the ins and outs, and it can be dangerous if you're not well versed enough. So if this is something you want to do, obviously I highly suggest Green Legion travel. I always will, but in particular with this, Quimby, with all of his knowledge of the area, just makes it even that much more valuable. So there. That's what's going on. Trips.greenlegion.com to book any of the travel that I just mentioned. And of course, in just a couple of months, we will have the NFL schedule, and then you'll be able to jump on early bird deposits and whatnot for where the Birds are going to be this year. I hope to see some of you out here in Cincinnati. I also hope that the New Orleans trip ends up on a weekend where I can go. And I definitely hope to see a bunch of you down there. All right, before we get to the fun stuff here, let's jump back over to the room again. Amen, brother. Keenan says he gets his news from Quimby. Russ Taylor says on Twitter, is it tweeted or twatted in past tense asking for a friend? Actually, it's called X now, just nobody calls it that. Right? We all still call it Twitter. Russ Taylor, Chico's bail bonds and Little Bo Peeps for sponsorship. I'll keep that in mind, brother. Keenan Harmon, I'd go to Chicago just for the Garrett's popcorn. All right. And Russ Taylor, that isn't a trip. 1,800 is a couple of regiments. All right. So to the boner of the week. And Lou Mancini, every time I tease the show and I start talking boner of the week, Lou, whenever he gets an opportunity, will text me trying to guess who the boner of the week is. Now, he's been pretty good at it. He was a little off tonight, but not too far off. Before we get to the actual boner of the week, we are going to give an honorable mention. Lou, you were right on this one. We are going to give an honorable mention to Jimmy Garoppolo, who got popped for using performance-enhancing drugs. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo used PEDs, and it sure seemed to help him. Yeah, he led in his time on the field, when he was on the field, he led the Raiders to a 3-3 record while throwing for a whopping 1,205 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 77.7. Hey, Jimmy, you might want to up the meds because apparently they didn't work. Way to go, Slick. Jimmy Garoppolo on PEDs. Good Lord. No, we are going to stick with the Super Bowl theme for the actual boner of the week. And this should not be hard to figure out. Another honorable mention to Deebo Samuel here, who for all his bravado and big talk was seen crying on the sidelines, having lost the game, and has not been heard from since. Yeah, that's the part about running your big old yap like it's going out of style leading up to a game like that against the best quarterback on the planet, and then basically your offense did nothing. You did nothing. George Kittle did nothing. Outside of Christian McCaffrey, your leading receiver was Brandon Ayuk with 6 targets, 3 catches, 49 yards. Jennings was the only guy outside of McCaffrey, who had a game. Threw a touchdown and caught one. First player to do that since Nick Foles. But yeah, honorable mention to Debo. But the winner this week for Boner of the Week, easily Kyle Shanahan. Right? I mean, I don't even know how you go another direction. So we're going to cut right to it. For as talented of a play caller as he is and creative of an offensive mind, he's also coached some of the biggest. He's also coached some really healthy choke jobs. Right? So we're going to run through 4 of them here. Give you an idea of why he is the Boner of the Week. Super Bowl 51, he is the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. They're up 28-3 in that game over Brady's Patriots. And while the defense was obviously terrible from that point on, the over-aggressive play calling from Shanahan contributed largely to the outcome, which, in my opinion, officially put Brady at the top of the mountain over Joe Montana for good. Up to that point, I had continued to argue that Joe Montana was the guy. Once Brady came back from being down 28-3 on the game's biggest stage, I stopped arguing. What happens? The Pats win in overtime 34-28. You're up 28-3. You get outscored 31-0 from there on out. Like I said, defense was bad, but your offense put up nothing from there on out. Move on to Super Bowl 54. He's now the Niners head coach. Up 20-10 with a bunch of time left. There's a lot of game left. This time, he goes the other direction. Gets too conservative too early this time, albeit with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Maybe he should have been giving Jimmy some PEDs back then. He also decides to kick a field goal on 4th and 2 on the Kansas City 24-yard line early in the second half. What happens? Patrick Mahomes happens. Chiefs win the game 31-20. Then we've got the NFC Championship, right? What was it, 2 years ago? He's up 17-7 through 3 quarters. 17-7 through 3 quarters. You had a 10-point lead with 15 minutes left. What happens? His offense gets shut out in the 4th quarter, putting up just 31 total yards and a Jimmy G interception while watching the Rams score 13 unanswered to win the game 20-17. And the Rams went on to win the Super Bowl over the Bengals. And finally, we come to this year. Super Bowl. Once again, we all just watched it. No need to rehash. He's once again up against the Chiefs. An ugly football game, but he's got a 10-3 lead at halftime. And then Mahomes and Kelsey do Mahomes and Kelsey things, while the Kansas City defense continues to play like one of the best in the league en route to their second straight title, 25-22 victory. His offense gets outscored 22-12 in the second half and overtime of the game. And the cherry on top for Kyle Shanahan being this week's Boner of the Week. A bunch of your players have come out and said that they did not know the overtime rules. That is a 100% on the head coach bag of ass. It's the game's biggest stage. You may never get back there. Some of these guys, it's the first time they've ever seen it. It might be the only time they ever see it. And at the biggest moment, your team doesn't know the rules. For those of you that also don't know, we're fans. So if some of you did in Lou Dominguez comments, Lou actually asked in the group text with Chris and I, is that right? Are those the actual rules? Yes. What happens now is each team gets a possession. If the 49ers had taken that ball, gone right down and scored a touchdown, it would not matter. The Chiefs still get their possession, which is where Shanahan is also getting ripped for not kicking it, letting Mahomes letting Mahomes do his thing and then seeing what you had to do. Look, when you're in overtime, whatever. But it kind of plays into we didn't know the rules. Maybe they were thinking, we'll take the ball, we'll just go down and score a touchdown. This is over. The only way the game ends on the first possession is if a defensive score happens. Pick six, scoop and score, so on and so forth. Your team, on the game's biggest stage, the biggest moment, didn't know the rules. So you take all these offensive coaching failures in the second halves of these monster games and then put this cherry on top of it. I don't know, Shanahan. I can tell you one thing. You are unquestionably this week's Unhappy Gilmore boner of the week, without question at all. Now, before I get back over to the room, one thing I will say about Shanahan, slightly in his defense, the 4 games we just ran through, including this year's Super Bowl. Super Bowl 51, he's got Matt Ryan as his quarterback, who may make the Hall of Fame, but it's because of, he's up against Tom Brady, okay? Super Bowl 54, he's up against Patrick Mahomes. The NFC Championship game, it's Matt Stafford. And then this year's Super Bowl, it's Mahomes again. So 2 of those games are against Mahomes, 1 against Brady. Those 2, when it's all said and done, may very well end up being the 2 best quarterbacks that ever lived. And then the other one's Stafford, who is also a Hall of Fame quarterback. And who did Shanahan have as his quarterbacks in those games? Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. Not making excuses for the piss poor preparation, some of the play calling, and obviously this overtime thing. But that's a big quarterback deficit. So there. Still the boner of the week, though. All right, over to the room here before I post the StreamYard link and we talk Super Bowl, and then you guys can fire away any questions you might have. Well, Russ Taylor says some of you better be using that Portuguese Rosetta Stone. Dude, you just go to Babbel.com and you can learn whatever you want. Hell, my daughter's learning Italian from her phone. Keenan Harmon, the Niners are actually the California Cowboys come championship time. Ouch! Lou Dominguez, how about the longest field goal in Super Bowl history being broken twice in the game? 55 for Moody, 57 for Butker. Very good. Yeah. Up to that point, those were the 2 most exciting things in the game, though. That's a pretty bad football game. Andy Bagley, like McNabb, not knowing the rules back then. That actually happened here in Cincinnati. That was back in 2008. Yeah, 2008 here in Cincinnati. Game goes to overtime. Game finishes in a tie. I was at that game. And McNabb, we have on the ride back, we have to hear McNabb talking about how he didn't know the overtime rules. I didn't know the game could end in a tie. Yeah, that happened here. That was embarrassing. Russ Taylor, in honor of your shirt, up, up, down, down, left, right, be a select start. Very good. I love it, brother. David Conant joins the room. I think Wilkes deserves an honorable mention for his 4th quarter and overtime defensive calls, offensive, depending on perspective. Fair enough. David Conant was clamoring for Wilkes to be fired, and he got his wish. Russ Taylor, yes, competition rules take years to implement. Safety protocol rules can be changed within 1 week. I don't want to hear about safety protocol. As long as they're playing games on Thursday nights, they don't believe in player safety. Let's see. Russ Taylor, you know who would have known the rule? His dad, Mike Shanahan. Bam! Ouch! All right, let's get this up here like I've been doing every week. I hope somebody joins in to have a little fun. If not, that's okay too. Oh, whoa, that is not what I wanted. Wow. Hang on just a second here, folks. We had a little copy-paste issue. All right, let's get this. Control C. And there we go. All right, there's the StreamYard link for anybody who wants to hop in. We're going to look at what we got right and what we got wrong from the Super Bowl. So if anybody wants to join in, you just go ahead and click that link. I'll see you pop in backstage as soon as you go through the second screen there, and then you can come on in and talk some shit. What else do we got over here? Keenan Harmon, Chris Jones, and the Kansas City D-backs were fun to watch in the second half. Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a minute. All right. So What did we get right and what did we get wrong from the Super Bowl? Well, for 3-ish quarters, this was an awful football game. Honestly, without the excitement of the, later in the fourth quarter and the overtime, that thing was a snooze fest, reminiscent of that Rams Patriots Super Bowl. I can tell you that Rams Patriots Super Bowl and this one, Rams Patriots, I was sitting on my couch at home in Tennessee and I fell asleep during the game. That's how bad that game was. And I can tell you, had I been home this past Sunday, I might have fallen asleep during the first half. It was pretty bad. I'm fine with a nice defensive battle, but that's not all this was. There was some really sloppy play on offense too, with the fumbles, and it was an ugly. Not what we would have expected from these two teams, I guess is the best way to say it. I do reject anyone, including any network or whatever, that tried to call this thing a classic. The ending was classic. The late stages were classic, but the game itself was brutal. All that being said, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, the Chiefs are, once again, your Super Bowl champions. So let's run through, what did we call last week? We're going to run through these things, these points that I made of why the Chiefs were going to win the game, and then we'll see where I was right and where I was wrong. What did I start with? First, I said it had nothing to do with Taylor Swift, so, and I stick on that. But let's start with the obvious, was the quarterbacks, right? And what I talked about was the quarterback deficit, right? Like we just mentioned, talking about Shanahan, where he was up against Brady, Mahomes, and Stafford with Garoppolo and Purdy. Huge quarterback deficit, right? And that did show in this year's Super Bowl, okay? We talked about Purdy had not been good for 5 of the 8 quarters leading into 5 of the 8 postseason quarters leading into the game. And we looked, it looked like the Chiefs had kind of figured some things out. Mahomes was looking like Mahomes again. And the quarterback deficit did play out in this game. Okay. While Purdy was not awful, of course, it ain't like he really set the world on fire either. He did make some nice throws. And you guys know I am not one of these guys that sits there. I'm not on the Purdy sucks bandwagon, okay? I'm not. I am on the Purdy is a system quarterback bandwagon, all right? But no, I don't think he sucks. He does make some nice throws. He just doesn't do it consistently. And you saw that again during the Super Bowl. Made some decent throws. Also made some really bad ones that could have easily and maybe should have been picked off. Overall, he was 23 of 38. 255 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked once. He carried the ball 3 times for 12 yards. He didn't lose you the game, okay? But he didn't win it for you either, right? He looked very much like a guy who, he's either a lower tier starter or a backup. That's what he looked like to me. He was just kind of eh. There was nothing special there. On the other side, Mahomes, who didn't start out too hot, but he once again proves why he is far and away the best quarterback on the planet. And I think sometime maybe next week, we're going to do our top 10 active quarterbacks, I think, for next week. And we'll put them in tiers, and then we'll talk about that. But as far as I'm concerned, and I know David Conant and I have talked about this a bunch, Patrick Mahomes is in a tier all by himself. The guy, I don't know what else he has to do to prove. For me to get past Montana, he's going to have to win one more. Right? Montana had 4. Mahomes is going to have to get another one. And then when you couple the same number of Super Bowls, the same number of Super Bowl MVPs, plus the physical attributes that Mahomes has that Joe did not, I will give the nod to Mahomes over Montana at that point. He's got a long way to go before he gets to Brady, okay? I'm a little tired of hearing that right now. Everybody, Mahomes is the best ever. No, he's not. He's got a chance to be. He's definitely off to a fantastic start, but he is not the best ever. Tom Brady is the best ever, and right now it ain't close. Okay, Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowls. He has to double that and add one just to tie Brady. Not to mention, Brady also owns the passing yards, the passing touchdowns, the completions. Mahomes has a long way to go to catch Tom, okay? So we can cool it with all of the Mahomes is the best ever. He's climbing that list rapidly. One more Super Bowl, and I would put him ahead of Montana, which for my list would have him number 2 behind Brady, but it's still a good distance behind Brady. Anyways, he is right now the best quarterback on the goddamn planet, proving it once again in the Super Bowl after a rough start where he did look frustrated. The interception was obviously a trying to force a throw where it didn't belong and a frustrated throw. But he finishes the game 34 of 46, 333 yards. And if you watch that game, it did not feel like he threw for that many yards. 2 touchdowns, the 1 interception, but also added 66 yards on the ground. And of course, one of the 2 touchdowns is the game winner, in overtime. No shock there. So, quarterback deficit was what we talked about as reason number 1 why the Chiefs would win. Check that box. Moving on to number 2, the Niners defensive front playing wide 9. We did not get this one right at all. That's what they like to play coming in. They obviously adjusted their game plan, likely for the reasons that we talked about here, right? We thought that if they continued to play wide 9, it would play into the hands of Pacheco and the strength of the Kansas City offensive line, which is the middle, center, and the guards. The linebackers having to make all of the plays, and then it would be a long night as Pacheco runs very angry and initiates contact. Well, wide 9 wasn't a thing. Okay. I know David Conant wants to bash Wilkes, but he did do a good job in at least this aspect, adjusting that defensive scheme to combat that that kind of up the gut running game, holding Pacheco to 18 carries for just 59 yards and a fumble. So impressive job by the Niner front. When I thought that it could very well have come in and been a hindrance, a weakness that could have gotten exposed, Niners weren't having any of it. Next one, Niners defensive ends, specifically Bosa, coming too far upfield, over aggressive. We're going to split this one down the middle because for 3 quarters, they didn't do that. Bosa didn't do that. None of them did. But then you get to the 4th quarter and overtime, and that sort of stuff kind of reared its ugly head. Excuse me, kind of reared its ugly head. We said that, we've seen Bosa and the Niners wreak havoc on quarterbacks. Mahomes got sacked 3 times. Their Kansas City tackle's not that good. We've also witnessed them be far too aggressive, get caught out of position. Again, that did not happen for the first 3 quarters of that game. At least not a lot. Bosa had been known to come too far upfield more than anyone else. Again, he stayed home a bunch for those first 3 quarters. And the screen game, the jet sweeps and whatnot just weren't really a factor for the Chiefs when that looked like it could be an area of strength for the Chiefs coming into the game based on that aggressive front. Credit to the Niners for 3 quarters of the game staying home and being able to, to handle that sort of attack from the Chiefs. And it worked. So credit to them. So I'll just split that one, right? We got 1 right, 1 wrong, and we're going to split this one 60-40. Who's over here? Conant. Wilkes did a good job for 3 quarters, and then he shit the bed. It wasn't just him, dude. Players shit the bed, too. Keenan Harmon says he gave the MVP to Alicia Keys. When she stood up from the piano and took that coat off, I forgot I was married. Very good. If you could have been a fly on the wall with my group during that Super Bowl halftime show, we have a lot of ladies in our group, and when Usher took his shirt off, I tell you what, it was getting pretty warm in our corner of the bar back there. When the halftime show was over, they went outside to cool off, and we all got a good laugh out of it. What else is going on here? David Califoot in the room. I'm here. Sorry, but that stopped at Twin Peaks in the Dallas area. Oh my fucking God, is all I got to say. It's first time at Twin Peaks, brother. I love that place. And you now know why. Oh yeah, and the brisket nachos are good too. Good for you, man. Moving on. The right side of the Niners offensive line. And I do believe this was a problem. We knew about Williams on the left side. Him and Sewell probably being the best two in the game with Mailata kind of right under that. Right side, not as strong. Gets exposed. Even versus weaker defenses. Spagnuolo knew what he was doing. We even saw, I think it was at McKivitz, go out of the game at one point with a tweaked a bit. And, lining up Chris Jones over there, moving him around. Look, Chris Jones was a menace all night, okay? He only hit the stat sheet for 4 tackles and 2 quarterback hits. But if you watch the game, he was in there wreaking havoc. He was in there busting shit, just disrupting things all night long, right? Even if he didn't hit the stat sheet for it. I think you got to go to a deeper stat when you see disruptive plays and stuff like that. And to be honest with you guys, a lot of times I just don't have the time to get into Pro Football Focus and dig that deep. Maybe we'll try to do some of that coming into next football season, but I didn't have the time for it this week. But I'm going to give myself a check mark on this one because Chris Jones proved to be every bit the animal we expected him to be going in. Uh-oh. And we've got a visitor here. Breaker 19 outside of Twin Peaks.
What's up, buddy?
In the Dallas area. How you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm in heaven. This is insane, dude.
I know. Twin Peaks is an awesome place.
Usually when I travel, I try to go to Hooters. Where's the nearest Hooters? That's where I stop at. If I'm gonna stop for a 10 or something. Where's the nearest Hooters? But everybody's been saying, dude, go to Twin Peaks. What is wrong with you? Go to Twin Peaks. I'm like, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Twin Peaks it is tonight. So, Hooters what? I'll never go there again.
Twin Peaks is easily the better call, dude. Easily.
Oh my god.
Easily.
Oh my god. Yeah. I don't even know what you're talking about Hooters anymore.
No.
So,
Twin Peaks is so much better.
Did you see this? And I don't know if this is true. And if I'm wrong, Gilmore, just say, Dave, you're an idiot, like you usually say. But did you see that Patrick Mahomes thing when he ran for that first down and then it went back to first down again? Is that true? Because there you go with that rig shit I'm talking about.
First down and went back to first down? What do you mean? I didn't see it.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I think we're having a little trouble.
Am I not getting reception?
I can hear you fine.
I don't know. My phone's been screwing up. I'm like, Dallas sucks for a reason, and I think Sam hit it on the head because my phone has been just awful down here.
Well, can you hear me at all, or are you not hearing me? He's not hearing me.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. Here, we can hear you.
Fuck, man.
Did you mute me? All right, we're gonna jump. Okay, Dave, come back in if you got another second. We're gonna cut it. Can you hear me, Dave? Now. All right, we're gonna get him out of there. I don't know what's going on with Dave's phone. It seems to be having trouble in the Dallas area. I don't know. Can you guys hear him? Because I can hear him just fine. He's for whatever reason not hearing me. So we'll bump him back, and then when he can, I don't know what's going on down there, but seems like Dave's having himself a good time. Finally found himself at Twin Peaks. That place is awesome. Get the brisket nachos if you're still there and you haven't eaten yet, brother. That place is great. Great to hear from you again, as always. Yeah, Keenan, I could hear him loud and clear. I just he wasn't picking us up. So let's jump over here. Somebody asked who would have been the MVP. Lou Dominguez, who would have won the MVP? Oh, it's easily McCaffrey, dude. McCaffrey had 30 touches for 160 yards and a touchdown. Now, I know he fumbled early, but 30 touches for 160 yards and a touchdown, that's a massive game. And he is easily the MVP if they win that. All right, what else here? Dominguez says Jennings threw and caught a touchdown. I mean, I could see that too. I could definitely see that. I go with McCaffrey, 160 yards on 30 touches. I mean, I think they ran 70 plays, and he had the ball 30 of them. That's a horse, man. And he got in the end zone too. So, I mean, flip a coin, dude. I mean, because the Jennings performance, not nearly as big on the stat, accounting for 2 touchdowns, throwing one and scoring one himself, obvious. Yardage not there, touches not there. But impressive performances by both, even in the loss. Lou Dominguez, do the tilted kilts bars still operate? That I don't know. Quimby's probably the better resource. Let's see. Audio was a little choppy. Yeah, a little bit. I think he's having a little trouble hearing us. Anyways, so I gave myself a check mark for the Chris Jones thing. And now we're going to move finally to L'Jarius Sneed, who I thought would be a big factor. And he was, but it wasn't just him. Okay. I ran through all the Sneed stuff last week. No need to rehash it. But not just Sneed, but the entire Kansas City secondary holding the 49ers receivers in check. And they completely took away George Kittle. Now, that has to do with the linebackers, too. Let's just call it pass coverage in general. Outside of Christian McCaffrey, nobody on the Niners did a damn thing. Oh, Jennings, right? Jennings throws one, catches one. But, Ayuk was their leading receiver. Aside from McCaffrey, Ayuk is their leading receiver. 6 targets, 3 catches, 49 yards. Obviously, CMC, absolute beast aside from the fumble, led his team in rushing and receiving with 80 yards on both ends on 30 touches and had the touchdown. But credit to that Kansas City secondary for taking away Kittle. Pretty much taking away Ayuk. Definitely taking away Debo. Just overall, just a great performance by that Chiefs defense, proving once again why they're one of the best in the league. So I'm going to give myself a check mark for that one as well, even though I only called out Sneed. Obviously Sneed is a massive part of that. And finally, I'm, like I had said last week, I'm not much for predictions. But like I said, I also wasn't going to pick against Patrick Mahomes. And I took the Chiefs winning the game 27-21. And the final score ended up being Chiefs 25-22. So I think I was well within the ballpark on that as well, right? We did a Super Bowl questionnaire out here for our group. Was a buck to fill one out. 10 questions. The tiebreaker being the total combined score. And one of the women in our group, she finished second with the total number of points scored on the sheet. But the total points for the game, she hit it head on. She picked 47 points. She hit it right on the head. So while my friend Kevin Rice, if you're out there listening, if you're coming to the Cyclones game with us next weekend, we'll get you your gift certificate then. Winner got a gift certificate, just $25 to the back porch. But Kevin wins that. He got 7 questions right. Kim had 6, and she hit that damn final score right on the head. So I'm going to do something for her too, just because. I mean, that was pretty impressive. All right, one more time over to the room before we call it an evening, folks. That was a quick hour. Wow. That went by really fast. Let's see here. Andy Bagley, those young corners can all play. Imagine being able to draft corners that can play. True story. Let's hope we get better at that. Keenan Harmon, not one San Francisco receiver left the line without getting bumped. Hands-on defense. Agreed. It's Spagnuolo. That defense is well coached, and he just signed an extension. That shit ain't going away anytime soon. You could give a little bit of a boner of the football season award to the Chiefs, though, for not ponying up and paying Chris Jones when they should have. Now, you got a guy who's 3 Super Bowls, and oh boy. Lou Dominguez, least valuable player was definitely George Skittles. What a shit game he had. Yes, 2 catches, 4 yards on 3 targets. He was absolutely the definition of a non-factor. Again, that Chiefs defense did an absolutely amazing job. This is the reason why they were able to come back and win the game. They just kept San Francisco in check long enough until Mahomes figured some shit out. They win a game. Right? I mean, San Francisco was completely shutting down the Chiefs offense for a good portion of the game. And they couldn't capitalize on it. Because Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense just wasn't having it. And again, I keep going back to it. You guys are going to get sick of hearing it, but this is going to continue to be a thing year over year, game over game. The quarterback deficit that you face when you go into a game against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is so much better than every other quarterback in the league that everyone who plays against the Chiefs is in a quarterback deficit. Some not as drastic. For some reason, Joe Burrow's 3-1 against him. I'm still going to tell you Patrick Mahomes is head and shoulders a better quarterback than Burrow. Josh Allen is a really good quarterback. The deficit's not as big, but it's still a deficit. And it's still big enough that if you can't put them away early and they keep within reach, within earshot, he is going to figure it out. And you are going to pay the price. The 49ers have figured that out twice in the Super Bowl. We found that out last year's Super Bowl. The only time it didn't happen in the Super Bowl was when he had an absolutely atrocious offensive line and he was up against the GOAT. That might be the only postseason games he's ever played in where he wasn't the best quarterback on the field. And honestly, the Super Bowl against Brady, I would tell you, Mahomes was already better than Brady physically. Just his team let him down. He had no offensive line in that game. You guys remember that Super Bowl? There is a play where he is literally off of his feet, Mahomes, late in the game, completely stretched out, like he's diving for something, and he flips the ball 30 yards on a dime. And I forget who the receiver was, but he dropped it in the end zone. The things that Patrick Mahomes can do it's stuff we've never seen a quarterback do. Not like that. We've seen guys get creative. We've seen guys do some wacky stuff. But the shit that Mahomes can pull off on a week in and week out basis is absolutely unbelievable. And for all those reasons and more, he is the best quarterback in football. It's not close. We are going to, and I think that's a good idea for next week. We're going to do that. It's a nice close of the season thing. We're going to do that next week. We're going to rank the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL as far as we see them. So feel free to give me your input all throughout the week. Dave, I'm sure I'll talk to you on the phone. Lou, I'm sure you, Chris, and I will have plenty of text messages about stuff, especially with baseball season starting out here. But for all you MLB haters, I would also get ready for that to become a thing again. You can hate it all you want. I am a baseball fan. We are going to talk baseball on the show. The other thing we are going to talk is we're going to start talking the upcoming March Madness. You guys know I love my college sports too. I don't get a lot of college football talking with you guys, although I do try to make it a thing. So we are going to get to that in the next coming weeks. One more time over to the room, David Connett. Kittle definitely disappeared, and it was embarrassing. Yes. Patty talks like a frog and plays like a god. There's Kermit the God, right? Dave Connett, you're starting to drool like Collinsworth. Oh, God. Please don't let me get that bad. But it's true, man. He is that good. So, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Unless anybody's got any questions, any comments, anybody want to jump in before I end this thing here? I'll put that up one more time. If anybody wants to come on up and throw their 2 cents in before we close up shop for tonight, we'll hang on for a couple more minutes. Yes, Andrew Begley. I forgot to mention that at the opening. I meant to. Whit Merrifield to Philadelphia in 1 year, $8 million. It's a nice pickup. And we got the Daytona 500 on Sunday for Keaton says for all his fellow gearheads. Daytona 500, I will tell you, I'm not a big NASCAR fan. You guys have never heard me talk about it on here. But the Daytona 500, if I'm going to put a race on my television, this is the race that I will put on. And not for an extended period of time. I've got 3 TVs in that room. I can put the smaller one on it. I can't sit there for half a day and watch guys just take left turns all day long. I just can't do it. Now, I would go to a race. I've never actually been to a race, and I would like to go to an actual race. Obviously, Daytona is ridiculous, but there's plenty of tracks that are not too bad driving distance for me here that I could get to, and I would like to go to a race at some point and check that out. I hear it's a blast. I'd like to have a good time with that, so maybe we'll do that sometime, somewhere. David Califoot, sorry guys, Dallas blows. Yeah, Andrew Begley. I can't watch cars, not on TV. I can't watch it on TV. I can't bring much. I can't sit and just dedicate hours to that. I could get, but going to a race is something I definitely want to do. So then I will watch cars going. Sir, I hear you can fill coolers, bring them in with you, drink all the beer in them, then go back out and fill it up again. So now you're talking my language. David Conant, Michigan is actually a pretty nice race. See, there we go. Right? There's places I can get to. Anyways, folks, doesn't look like anybody's going to jump in. That's right, fine with me. We're going to call it a night here. We're going to get on to our weekend. So for everyone in the room, Keenan, Andrew, David Conant, David Califoot down there in Dallas enjoying Twin Peaks for the first time. Lou Mancini, Lou Dominguez, Keenan Harmon, Andrew Begley, and Russ Taylor, and everyone else out there on the interwebs who is watching now, didn't comment, and or watches later. This has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you for joining us. We hope you come back next week when we are going to start talking a little baseball. We're going to start talking a little NFL draft, and we're going to rank our top 10 quarterbacks for active quarterbacks. And I already know one that our good friend David Conant is going to hate. So we'll look forward to him being pissed off about that. Anyways, you guys take care. Have a great weekend. Stay dry, stay warm. I know it's snowing out there. I believe Monday is President's Day. So remember, the judge probably not back in until Tuesday. So don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And as always, like we do every show, whether it's football season or not, go Birds. All right, kids, that's enough. I'm getting out of here. Take care. We love you.